Welcome back, everybody. I'm your host, and tonight we're going to talk about the breather. It was 1963 when miners in an abandoned Polish coal shaft uncovered a sealed tunnel marked with iron crosses. Soon after, strange things started happening around the old mining town of Rudas. Miners who had been working hard all week to make the old shaft safe for exploration were sent home for the weekend by their foreman. But some of them didn't want to go home. They wanted to explore the tunnels further, and soon after, they heard a sound coming from inside the shaft. A low sound, something like fingernails scraping against rock or fingernails dragging across slate. Nobody was quite sure what it was, but the men decided to investigate. Once inside the dark tunnels, the men began to hear a loud scratching sound, and then they saw it. Something large was crawling up through the mine shafts, and it seemed to be covered in sores. Whatever this thing was, it was somehow sealing off the entrance to the shaft, blocking the way out with its massive frame. The men turned and ran, their heavy boots echoing in the tunnels. They were being chased by a large, evil creature. It was moving fast, and they could feel its hot, fetid breath on their necks. The men ran blindly, stumbling over rocks and tripping over loose gravel, but they could hear the creature gaining on them. Its heavy breathing grew louder, and suddenly it was right behind them. They turned to face whatever it was, only to realize they could unsee anything because of the darkness. They couldn't make out any details in the gloom. All they could see were large hunks of flesh illuminated briefly by their flashlights. One miner would later report seeing two glowing red eyes, but no one else would corroborate his story. And that was the last time anyone ever saw whatever it was that night. The men made it back to the surface, where they told their foreman what they had seen. At first, he didn't believe them, thinking that they had just gotten spooked or maybe even scared up some wild animals. But when he investigated the shaft, he found that it had been blocked off by something massive. The ground itself seemed to have been pushed outward, collapsing small sections of the tunnel ceiling and making a wall. Rumors began to spread throughout the town about the mysterious monster that lurked in the abandoned shaft, and people began avoiding the area altogether. Then, more miners went into the shaft to try and clear it, so that they could continue excavating for coal. But whatever had made the blockage was still there, and it continued to move around inside the mine. It wasn't long before more miners claimed to have seen the creature, and this time it seemed to be injured. They said that its body looked like a twisted mass of flesh and bone, and it was oozing blood and pus from various wounds along its body. Some witnesses also reported seeing hair caught on jagged rocks protruding from its body, and they say it was clearly in pain. Soon after, the creature was spotted again, this time near the entrance to the shaft. Several miners stood watching in horror as it slowly pulled itself toward the surface. They said it appeared to be extremely emaciated, and its skin hung loosely from its bones. It reeked of decay and disease, and it crawled past the miners without acknowledging their presence. It must have weighed several hundred pounds, and yet it moved with ease. It disappeared into the forest after dragging itself up onto the surface, and nobody ever saw it again, or did they? You see, the creature was spotted many times over the next few weeks, always near the abandoned shaft. Witnesses agreed that it was hairless and seemingly had no eyes. Its skin was gray, green, and brown, stretched tightly over bulging muscles. It moved on all fours and left strange tracks in the mud. Sometimes it was seen walking upright on two legs, and sometimes it even seemed to walk backwards. It was around this time that the miners who had witnessed the creature first described its most haunting characteristic: its breathing. When it came across someone while walking through the forest, it would begin to breathe heavily, making noises like wet air being forced through a narrow passage. The creature never attacked any people, but it did attack some dogs. It would stalk them through the underbrush. Then, when it got close enough, it would open its mouth wide and release a jet of foul-smelling air. The dog would immediately collapse and die. As time passed, the creature became bolder, approaching houses and even walking down the middle of the street. People reported hearing it breathing heavily, but they never saw it during the day. It was always only seen at night. It didn't seem to speak, but it did communicate in some way. Miners who were working in the shaft reported hearing tapping sounds as if someone were knocking on the roof of the tunnel, and those same miners said they felt vibrations in the walls of the tunnel, as if something massive were pressing against it from the outside. One witness would later recall, "We were so frightened that we clung to each other in the darkness, praying that we wouldn't be the next ones to die." In all, 7 people would die under mysterious circumstances after seeing the creature. 3 were driven insane, and 2 mysteriously disappeared. The rest of the townspeople fled, leaving the town abandoned. Authorities became involved and an investigation was launched. Teams of scientists, doctors, and military personnel descended on Rudas, but the creature was never captured, and no trace of it was ever found. Then after several weeks, it just stopped. The tapping sounds in the tunnel ceased, and the breathing sounds in the forest were never heard again. Years later, rumors began to spread again that the creature had returned. This time it was spotted in the nearby village of Sun. Local residents said that they were awakened at night by loud tapping sounds coming from inside the sewer. They said the sound of heavy breathing could also be heard at night, and sometimes they even swore they could hear it speaking in a language that they didn't understand. Some witnesses claimed that it attacked cats and dogs, killing them with its breath, and a few even reported seeing it slithering through the sewers, dragging itself closer and closer to the surface. To this day, the creature has never been captured, though the Polish government claims that it is not real. Locals, however, tell stories of the beast, calling it the breather. To them, it's very real. So, what do you think? Is the breather a real creature that lives in the sewers of Poland, or is it just a myth? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe and join our growing community. We've got lots of videos in the works that you're going to love. If you want to send us a message, you can use the contact form on our website. I'll include a link in the description. And if you want to support our channel, you can do that as well, through the links in the description. Your support helps us keep making great videos that we hope you enjoy. Thanks again for watching. Have a great night, and we'll see you next time on Night Fear.